You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
A few years back, we went through big epidemic of new construction homes having their wiring ripped out, new construction office complexes having their wiring ripped out because it's copper wire, and copper wire, guess what, has become really expensive. You take that in and sell that, you make some good money. So take that, fast forward a number of years down the road, bigger and better targets for copper wiring are now Washington's highways. So you've got all the mechanical boxes and equipment and the big long tubes that cover the wiring, that hold the wiring. Those are being broken into at like on-ramps and certain areas of the freeway system where you've got the wiring located. Those are being broken into, and even stuff that, the criminals don't know. They're just tearing into things and, hey, found some copper wiring. Awesome. Let's rip that out. Let's go sell it, get our next fix. That is literally what's going on, right? So it used to be that if you tampered with something on like a highway or a street, you do some time. It was a big no-no. Don't screw with the government stuff. But now it feels like anything is fair game. You can tag up anything you want, no repercussions. Smash windows, it's okay. Steal stuff, it's okay. And it's gotten to the point where literally, we've got off-ramps in Seattle that are on-ramps to like express lanes that we're going to talk about in a second, where you can't get on and off because the mechanical operations are not working. No power, no wiring. It's insane. But why wouldn't we have this? This is just, further acceleration of what's going on with the criminal element, who doesn't really have much out in front of them that says, well, here's the repercussions for your actions. They know if they get caught, there's going to be some prosecutor out there who more than likely, oh, you're still stealing copper wiring. It's okay. We know you're a good person. Come back to us later at a later court date. We'll settle this all out. In the meantime, just be a good person. We're going to release you on your own personal recognizance. It'll be good, right? This is what we're talking about today, and this storyline's been going on. Thieves are stealing copper wire along Washington's highways. And you would think, okay, that makes zero sense. And yet, when you kind of put it together, you're like, okay, probably a lot of copper wiring in there. How many pounds of copper wiring can you get out of, the freeway system? A lot. And the other thing that I've noticed is nobody's getting caught for this. You don't say, hey, here's the people that are arrested, because it's happening in the middle of the night. Police have been defunded. Yeah, the state troopers are covering some of this, but they're not necessarily, hiding out underneath the underpasses where a lot of this stuff happens and trying to figure out, hey, are those guys real workers or not? There's just a lot of opportunity here for criminals to do their thing. It's what we're talking about today here in the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. If you're new, welcome. My name is Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies, and I talk about stuff going on related to real estate and mortgages and all kinds of stuff, and highways to get to your communities. Those are important. You don't want the wiring ripped out so you can't get on and off safely from said highway systems. That's why we're covering this, right? Thieves are stealing copper highways along Washington's highways. The entrance-exit ramp at 9th Avenue and Pike Street is closed until further notice. How come we can't use that on-ramp? They ripped out all the wiring. Why? Well, they really needed to get their next fix, and it's worth a lot of money now. Price of copper, have you checked that out? It's going to the moon. They can easily take that in and sell it. A ramp connected to the Interstate 5 express lanes in Seattle closed Tuesday following a significant amount of wire theft. The entrance-exit ramp at 9th Avenue and Pike Street is closed until further notice, according to the Washington State Department of Transportation. We cannot operate the gates or signage for that ramp without power, the Washington State Department of Transportation tweeted. The express lanes will operate as normal with this exception. So the incident is just one of dozens in the past year. This is ongoing. I have seen this storyline. Again, it's kind of one of those things where you're like, really? Really? You're going to rip into that? We all use those roads. It's kind of like the knuckleheads who were, dropping off like a microwave from an overpass onto traffic coming on the freeway. I mean, just going through the underpass. Somebody's up there just out of their minds going, this will be a fun experiment to see what happens. Maybe we can hit a car as they go by. I mean, stuff like that. You just read and you're like, really? This is something really going on. And here in Seattle, we've got enough of a drug problem. And this is not just in Seattle, but the criminal element that is bold and brave enough to do this kind of thing. I mean, that's just nutty. I mean, how about the fact that you're ripping into some hot electrical, whatever it is? I mean, where's the breaker box for this? Are you turning off the breaker box for this? Somebody must have some rudimentary knowledge of how these systems work. Because if somebody said to me, hey, you know what? See that gray cover over there? Take that gray cover off and just take a big pair of wire clippers, look for the copper and just start cutting stuff. I mean, if somebody tells me to do that at my own house, I'm going to be like, is the outlet still on? Is the power still on? Did you shut off the master circuit? Did you shut off that individual circuit? I mean, what do we have going on there? It's okay. Just take the really big wire clippers and start clipping the heck out of any wiring you see and then tear it out of there. Okay. I mean, this can't be safe. This is not safe. This is not OSHA approved, right? I mean, it's just not. I mean, we know that. So Washington State Patrol Trooper Joseph Armstrong said thieves have been targeting copper wire in the highways. In the past 13 months, Armstrong said the Washington State Patrol has received 30 calls from Washington State Department of Transportation about copper wire theft on highways in King County alone. So this is happening all over, right? People know you can steal a bunch of wire out of these systems, get away with it, go sell said wire, get your next fix. I mean, that is literally what's happening here. If you try and explain this as anything other than that, we're just trying to pay rent. No. Hard no. Hell no. You know what I mean? All right, well, I was ripping out all this wire just to go get myself a sandwich. No, you're not. You're going to go score some whatever it is, and you've been a bad human being because we need these roadways to get around. It's kind of just one more thing where you're like, all right, well, that is a criminal opportunity there as well. So Armstrong said thieves are looking for opportunities to steal copper wires. The metals price at scrapyards, it's up more than 20% in the past year. And we know that this jeopardizes public safety by disabling traffic signals, highway lighting, information signs, and other transportation systems. You know, where you've got the road closed ahead thing? Yeah, now you don't have that because the jokesters tore out the wiring that lit up that sign. I mean, just, you know, that thing where it says merge to the left, road lane ahead closed. Yeah, you no longer have that. So, and you can thank the criminals for, tearing into the wiring. Now, in 2007, our former governor, Christine Gregoire, she did put into action a bill that made it, they could prosecute for more time on penalty against metal thieves. But that doesn't seem to be having much action. Doesn't seem to have much teeth, does it? Because these guys are not getting caught. They know when to go in and out, right? And by the time a police officer, a state trooper pulls over while doing 65 miles an hour or whatever it is down the freeway and back up, these guys are gone. They're gone. I mean, they're in and out. So they think they're trying to think of ways to hide it or put it through the system. So when we do get everything up and running, it's not stolen again. Washington State Department of Transportation is trying to figure out ways. Okay, so we just rewire this and they come back and steal it again. They know it's there once. We're going to have to rewire it. So what are we even doing here? So they're trying ways to figure out to make this system more safe so that Department of Transportation doesn't have to have literally, which was what yesterday was, Groundhog Day. They don't have Groundhog Day at these systems that are being torn into. So it's just absolutely crazy. Here's another story. We can't keep up. Copper wire thieves plague roadways, shut down I-5 express ramp. So Department of Transportation literally can't keep up with all of the destruction that's happening as thieves tear into these lines and steal the copper. Wire thieves are hitting highways and bridges across Washington and Western Washington. The latest incident is the closure of the ramp we just talked about. Junction boxes, terminal cans, they were all opened and destroyed. A lot of wire was removed. So somebody seems to know, is this former WSDOT workers that are, hanging out in the homeless encampments? Are they the ones that are going out and doing this stuff? Somebody knows how to cut this stuff out. I mean, and I guess, you always think, well, how would they figure that out? If there's a way to shortcut the system, these criminals will figure it out, because that is literally their MO, right? How do we get something for nothing? How do we get paid for this? If you've got somebody coming in with a whole bunch of copper wire that doesn't look like it's theirs, it's probably not. But, it doesn't come with a price tag on it or a, barcode on it. It's, well, we've ripped it out of the Department of Transportation's machinery. Oh, okay. Well, I'll give you 20 cents on the dollar. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just, it's such a crazy thing to have happen, to have your on-ramps not able to work because somebody tore in to the machinery required to run them. Is nothing sacred anymore? And the answer to that is no, it's not. This stuff is just going on. So here's a tweet. This is from 𝒂𝒕𝒍𝒆. There's so much damage, we can't keep up with our regular workload. Washington State Department of Transportation tells me wire theft is rampant as copper prices spike. The latest case was a shutdown. Please call 911 if you see someone working roadside without an official logo vest. Those are good. That is good. That's strong recommendation there. If they don't have a vest on, if they don't have the big truck, the big white truck, with all that stuff, or the big van with the Department of Transportation, maybe assume that the reason they look like they came from a homeless encampment is because they did come from a homeless encampment. So I'm throwing, everybody in homeless encampments into that. But half the time, when they go through and clean these things up, homeless encampments up, this is the stuff that they're coming across, bike parts, car parts, whatever they can get to sell and do their thing. That is literally what's going on. It's not everybody in the homeless encampments, but that element, this is how they're making their living to get their next fix. So we repair it during the day, take it again at night. And we're trying different methods to try and prevent it. And even had Kent police around to help out. And they still stole it night after night after night. So this is an ongoing thing, and it's not going to stop. So what are we going to do here? I don't know. I guess Department of Transportation, they've got to figure out some more foolproof systems. But it seems like the minute they put something in place that makes sense, criminal element, they're figured out. They've got plenty of time on their hands, right? They're not working. They're just hanging out. They've got all their bills paid, free needles, you name it, free food, free healthcare. It's all just provided to them, so they can sit around and come up with ways to tear in to the machinery that's required to operate our roadway systems. Absolutely nuts, right? All right. Meanwhile, at the White House, what do we got going at the White House? One of the storylines that I thought was just weird was the whole Jen Psaki saying that crime concerns are part of an alternate universe. And she said this during a podcast. She was literally looking at what some of the other media, here's CNN, here's CNBC, here's what they're saying. And then she's like, Fox, they're talking about crime again. And she was kind of dismissing the fact that, toward more, if you're right of center, you're concerned about crime. If you're left of center, it doesn't seem to really hit your radar until it does, right? Until your home is the one that's ripped off or your home is being impacted. But as we kind of move along here, you can see the crime stats in communities that are most heavily impacted. I mean, look at New York, look at LA, look at San Francisco, look at Portland, look at what I just read to you in Seattle. This is what's going on. Now, you might say, all right, well, President Biden did have a bunch of money coming out of whatever trillion they dumped into the economy. Well, you can say, okay, yeah, that was to go towards, fighting some of this crime. How's that working out? How's that working out? Crime going down? Is it decreasing? Doesn't feel that way, does it? It doesn't feel that way. It's a going up. So what happened here? So 𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒍𝒆 made the crack in an appearance on the January 25th edition of Pod Save America. I've never heard of it. It's got some important people in there that used to be White House aides and whatnot for the Obama administration. So what 𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒍𝒆 said is CNN is talking about the Pentagon and troops and heightened alert. Talking about MSNBC was saying the same thing about the troops. CNBC is doing their own thing about the market. And then on Fox, here's what she said. And then on Fox, Janine Pirro talking about soft on crime consequences. 𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒍𝒆 went on, I mean, what does that even mean, right? So there's just an alternate universe on some coverage. What's scary about it is a lot of people watch that. I thought that was interesting. A lot of people watch Fox, and it's because Fox is one of the few networks that actually covers crime. Period. It just is. None of the other networks just basically cover it up. Crime? Oh, no, we're good. It's all right. Big city crime. Got a lot going on. Criminals are literally ripping out the mechanisms for copper in Seattle. I mean, if that's not kind of unsettling, I don't know what is. Murder numbers in so many communities, they are up. Now, you might have the argument where, yeah, but they're up in communities where we didn't defund the police as well. Okay, yeah, maybe. But it's literally, you've got these prosecutors that are just turning these criminals right back out on the streets to do their thing. And, and that's if they ever catch these copper criminals. They probably won't even catch them because of the way that this is set up. There's got to be some security footage. There's got to be some cameras. But, even if you have a camera footage of somebody breaking into your house, good luck with that. You know what I mean? You turn it into the police. They're already knee deep in existing incidents, and they may or may not find your guy. They certainly don't have the manpower to go out and find him. Maybe it's different in your community, and it is different in a lot of communities. They go out, and here in Bellevue, we don't have that happen. We had somebody that got really upset just at a AM PM here. They got really upset that they had to wear a mask in the store. All right, I understand that. But and I've been in that store a bunch, and some of the people don't wear masks in there. So obviously he was a manager or maybe an owner, and he escorted the person out by the collar, said, hey, you're out of here. They came back with a gun, and they pointed it at the manager, the owner, and said, I'm going to kill you. So, that message was stated. Police found out who that person was, arrested them, and that's how that goes. Seattle, that happens, all bets are off. The likelihood of, coming across that person, because crime is happening so rampant in those areas that you can't possibly come up with everybody. I had a viewer send me a clip on their cell phone from down in Kent, which is a little bit further south of us, a knife fight at a gas station. People are just getting into it. I mean, thank heavens it wasn't a gunfight, but this stuff it just feels like it's not big city crime. It is crime in smaller towns as well that has just gotten out of control. And some cities handle it. Other cities don't. Some cities have the bandwidth of police to handle it and want to handle it. Other cities are just kind of like, big city crime. It's okay. But to hear the White House press secretary say, well, we're doing our best on crime, certainly doesn't feel that way. And the president is going to, where's he going? New York, because we had the rookie police officer that life was taken and his partner died shortly thereafter, having about a police officer a day killed in the line of duty, something along those lines. If I'm wrong there, I know it was that way at the beginning of January, or the midway through, or 3/4 of the way through January. This is stuff that's ongoing, and you need to start locking some of these folks up. That's the bottom line. You need to lock them up. You need to take them off the streets. You need to do whatever it is that's going to prevent them from continuing to do this stuff. Until we get back to some of that, this stuff's going to keep on going. They're just back on the streets and they feel free to commit the crimes that, that's going on. And that's if they ever get arrested. There's so many cases now where you read the stories and it's like no arrests were made. If you know of anything related to this incident, please call local police at this telephone number. And you're like, okay. So if you know who did it and you phone that in, are they going to go find him? Probably not. They will here in Bellevue because our police are committed to doing that kind of thing. They have the bandwidth to do that kind of thing. Other police departments so overwhelmed by this nonsense going on that is apparently happening in an alternate universe. And Jen Psaki does say, hey, you need to read the full context of this. And it's like, okay, but there's only a few networks that are really covering the crime that's going on. Everybody else is like, it's all good. Nothing to see here. We're fine. It's not a big deal. Record murder numbers? Big city crime. I mean, that's literally kind of the narrative that's going on out there because the crime numbers seem to be pretty specific to some areas that are, may or may not have progress, if you know what I mean, in the right direction. And here in Seattle, we do not have progress. We are not going in a progressive direction with our wire being ripped out from our highways and our roads to get around. And that is a problem. Washington State Department of Transportation, that is funded by us through the government. Our taxes pay for that. So if you want to keep paying for some joker to rip out the wiring and the on-ramp to your nearest expressway, maybe you do. Maybe you're a fan of that. Maybe you should just write a check to WSDOT and, let them just make sure they're funded. No, we need to get to the root of this and figure out how to cut it down. But unfortunately, till you start throwing some of these people in jail for long periods of time, ain't going to happen. All right, that's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being part of the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. I will keep covering these topics because they're important and people need to know about them. There we go. Thanks again for being here. We'll catch up soon. Talk then. Bye for now.